Field level and action security is part of the field level and data security solution in NavEasy Security. It allows you to control pages. You can leave them editable or as they used to be. You can make them read-only by having them only be view, or you can also completely hide pages. You can control fields, editable, view or hide. One thing to be aware of is that not everything that is on a page potentially is a field, so that's one thing to be aware of. You can also control actions. Editable means you can leave people to click on them and activate them. You can grey them out with view, or you can completely hide them. All this one works completely on top of what the user's normally permissions are, and also customization and configuration is not affected by these functions in here. You can have certain places inside NAV where there's actually code that conflict what we're trying to add in here, and we'll take a look at how you can actually find those places in here. I have a database here that have Easy Security installed in it, both the login and permissions and field level and data security. I want to switch to another company, and I want to go do the initial setup to copy data, and run the function up here, basically creating the setup necessary inside this company. As I now look at the customer card, nothing has really changed. It's just ready to be used in here, but I'll be able to see all my menu items, and if I look at a single customer, I can of course see the balance and things like that one in here. So if I want to control this one with normal NAV security, if I will allow people to change the address, that of course also means that people can change the posting setup or the payment terms in here. There's nothing that prevent people from doing that, because you either can modify the record or you can't modify the record. Field level security will be able to control that one in a lot of ways in here. You can also, if you go up and actually look at the statistics up here, see if I'll go find it here on the Navigate. You open up the statistics and this page show up in here. One of the tricks about figuring out what you're seeing code-wise is actually this about this page. And I can see in here, this one is actually page 151, and it uses the source table 18 in here. This one is quite valuable when setting up field level security codes, because you're actually going to be controlling this one by each individual page in here. If I want to do some initial lockdown of this one, I'll go in here and add a new record in my user security setup. And I'm actually going to leave the user ID blank in here. Select the customer table, and it will default to read only out here now. This one is for every user now that logs in, and I'll make exceptions for the people that needs to be different in here. So if I now go back and look at my customers, I'll see my menu items gray out in here. If I look at a single customer, every field is now gray out. So even I'm a super user in the system, I can't change anything in here. I want to create another setup where I'll take away the balance. I will allow the person to modify the address and some of that information down here, and be able to click on a few of the things up in the ribbon up here. So going back to this, I will create a new field level security code. I will be doing this for the customer, and I will just call it address in here. One of the things it suggests is actually to copy permissions from the default, and you can pick one of the field level security be the default. By default, that is actually the read only in here. So if we take a look at this one, I can actually see that page 0, every page that shows the customer table, will be set to view out here, basically gray it out. And if I look at it down here on the details, I would see that for all actions 0, I have a view in here. I'll be making exceptions for other actions and fields, and I will be doing the same for pages in here. But let's say I actually just assign this one to myself in here. So this user is the one I'm logged in as, and I will go in here and use another field level security code. If I leave this one blank, and I'll try to do this first in here, that actually means I will be able to now see the customer list, no changes, and of course my customer card will show up completely normal in here. But I want to limit access to data now inside that field level security code I just created in here, the one about address. So to see what's currently is done in there, I will go and add that new address to myself in here. And this, of course, since it's being the same as read-only, will now gray out all the menu items and everything in here. So going back and looking at that field level security code about address, I only created one by copying, and it's all set for view in here. I actually want to add another line in here and saying for the customer card, I want to have different settings than I have on the page 0 up here. We can leave the page itself editable, and if you want to allow people to edit fields, you need to leave the page editable, but then you can set a default for the fields afterwards. If you make the page view, you can only hide or make fields view. You can't make them back to editable. So since I want people to change the address, I want to leave the page itself editable in here. I can then look at the details, and this one is now where I can determine what I want to do with fields in here. Again, with field 0, I will pick my default, and since I'm going to allow people to see most of the things, I will actually make it view in here. I can then add individual fields, so if I want to allow people to change the name, I will add that and leave it editable in here. If you want multiple fields, there actually is a function up here, and you can select several one of them in here and allow people to change that one in here. So I'll go change the fields that are related to the address in here. So I selected multiple fields, and I want to leave these one editable in here. So in this way, all fields currently show up grayed out, and I have a list of fields that I want to be different in here. I can also hide fields. So if I actually want to take all the fields related to the balance fields, I can go search for them, and I can see there's actually 4 fields on the customer table in here. So I will select those 4 fields, and I will hide them in here. So now I added 4 fields additional in here that is hiding on top of the normal one in here. I will come back and deal with actions later, but as I now added another page in here, it will immediately change how I actually will see the customer card in here. I can see my name is editable, my address is editable, and I used to have a couple of balance fields here before the credit limit. They are now gone because it's being hidden for the user in here. So in that way, I now controlled everything on the fields in here. The other thing, of course, is all the things up here in the ribbon is still active in here. And I can control this one also in here. So if I go back to my field level security codes, the one about address, and I look for the one for the customer card in here, I can look at the details. So in the same way as I did for fields, I can control actions. Actions being all the things up in the ribbon added from the application. These things about notes, links, refresh, new, delete is added by the environment. So you can't control those ones, but anything driven by the application is able to be controlled in here. And I want to make everything in here view, and that basically will gray out all the actions to begin with in here. I can then go add some actions back, and I will go in and I'll pick the statistics, maybe the ship to addresses and the sales in here. those ones I want to leave editable in here. So I only specify the few things that are different from my default to minimize the amount of data in here. And also, if I add an action in the future, it will of course be caught by my default. So I have to remember to do something instead of people just gaining access to new functions in here. So with these changes to my field level security code, my ribbon is now also changed a lot up here. And I will be able to see that my ship to address is down here. I can click on that one. Anything else is basically grayed out in here. If I look at statistics, I can still see that one in here. There's a lot of things on this statistics that are actually not real fields in NAV. And you can control fields, so I would actually be able to remove the balance in here. We can go do that one. And one of the things that are quite powerful in here is actually when you create a field level security code like this one. I went in and page 0, I made it view in here. But we can actually on page 0 also hide fields in here. So all these fields related to the balance, the 4 fields down here, I'm going to take those ones and hide them in here. So on any page now showing the customer table, those ones will be hidden now in here. This one affects my customer statistics, of course, in here. So some of the fields in here are now gone in here. The balance disappeared, and I can remove many of the other fields, but some of these things are actually not real fields in here. And if you have a lot of things you don't want people to see, one option you can have is simply to hide the page in here. So I will actually go in here and say for my field level security code route address, I don't want people to see my statistics page. Customer statistics 151. I simply want to hide it in here. So as I now hide this page, even being a super user and having access to everything, I will not be allowed to access that page any longer. So if I try go to statistics, I now just get an error that I'm not allowed to see it in here. So this one in general allows complete control of the page. Each page can be completely different in here. Another thing you can do is really simplify the pages. If you have somebody log in and they really don't need to see all the other details in here, you can create a very simple setup. So I would just test this out in here and create a new field level security code in here. So I will have a customer. I will call it simple. And it's a good beginning to have that information in here. And if all I wanted to do is let people see a few things, I can actually go into these details in here and say, I want to leave every action in here hidden. So I don't want to let people see any actions. Every field should by default be hidden also. I can then go in and add the number, the name, and I will make all those one as view in here. So every field is now basically hidden, and I have nothing else I can see in here. So in this case, I have all pages now showing the customer really being very limited. It didn't matter which page it is, I will only be able to see these few fields in here. So just to test this, how it actually works in here, is of course I can go change myself, and instead of this one, I will select the symbol in here. I'm now looking at a list that only have 4 fields in it. My card have very limited information in here. So most of the things are now gone in here. I have no actions, and if I really wanted to bring back an action, I can't do that on the page 0 level, but I can go make an exception for one of the pages in here. So I will go back to my simple code that I just created and add a few objects in here. I want in the customer card, I want to have that view in here. I will go to the details, and I can actually copy the details from another page in here. So in this case, I will copy this one down here, and I can go here and look under my table field. So this one actually is a symbol that I'm copying from in here. It now copied all the fields, and since I'm hiding all actions, I can go in and add my list of ship-to addresses back, so people can actually see that one in here. And I'll make that editable. You can't add actions on page 0 because the number of the action actually depends on the page you're seeing in here. I can go do the same for the list and say that this one I want to make it view, look at the details, and copy the same from my page 0 in here. And then go add my one action down here. Allow people to see the ship-to addresses also in the list in here. If you notice that it was 81 on the customer card, is actually 23 in here. And that's why you really can't do it on the page 0 level, because this one depends on the individual page in here. But with these few changes, I now have a very simple customer card list. I can get to ship-to addresses, and if I look at a single customer, I can only see my ship-to address. Everything else is basically gone up here. So that is really the capabilities of the field level security. You can lock it down as I did with the address. You can make really simple pages, and it didn't matter what security people has or how the configuration is done or what page is open. This one will work together with the configuration in here. The last thing I want to do in here, look at something that we call conflict in code in here. We add code to these pages to allow this to be controlled in here. And sometimes you'll see actions are showing up, or you will see fields that you didn't intend to be in here. It is possible others have actually used the same properties, and you can find that information inside the Easy Security Company in here. When we run the install for this functionality, we will actually write into a table called controls in here. And inside this page, there actually is an ability to search for what we call conflict in code in here. If I want to go look at my page for the customer, I want to go here and select pages. I want to add my customer card, that was 21, and I can now go take a look at conflict in code out here. And there is a few things in here. On the contact name, I can see somebody have used the editable trigger and also enabled turning fields on and off in here, create approvals in here. It's not used a lot of places, but sometimes there actually is code that conflict what we're trying to do in here. Mainly not on the visible and editable, but on some of the other ones in here. Editable is typically always able to be controlled, but you can find these ones simply by adding a filter in what we call conflict in code in here. And you can see those things, you can see which of the properties are already taken for other purposes in here. So with the field level and action security, it gives you a very high level of control on top of the normal NAV security in here.